Hello guys, girls, we are back with another Warhammer video. Ignore the V2 avatar, for some reason it's mad now. I can't control it, I don't know what settings I pressed. I'm mad now. What can I... the video is HORUS, LUPERCAL, Black Legion I think is Legionist, video by Remembrancer, as always pinned in the comment. Go leave a original video like. Before we begin, I have to tell you about my last couple of my days, and I have to be honest, I was sick again. I'm sick every week, basically, and guys, I don't know what happens, but when I'm super mega sick, I play Minecraft, so even now, even though I'm recording this, I'm playing Minecraft on a server, I'm fishing. Yeah, I'll be fishing in the background. So that's all I've been up to. Yeah, being sick sucks. Anyway, without wasting your time, let's begin.
The road to Terra is open. The time has come for us to take the war to the Emperor in his most impregnable fastness. We will make immediate preparation for the invasion of Terra and an assault on the Imperial Palace. Make no mistake, and it will be ours, my brothers. This will be no easy task, for the Emperor and his deluded followers will fight hard to prevent us from interfering with his plans for godhood. Doubtless, much blood has yet to be spilled, theirs and our own. But the prize is the galaxy itself. Are you with me?
Not really, man. Not really.
The Primarchs of his Imperium would exemplify the pinnacle of human creation. Demigods among mortal men, these titanic figures of the Imperium would lay the path for peace, paved with the bones of the enemies of the Emperor. Yet while each Primarch would be legendary in their own right, one would be chosen as the first among equals, and despite his favor, damn humanity's future. The Primarch of the 16th Legion, HORUS LUPERCAL.
It's actually insane that we finally made it to HORUS, and maybe I'll be able to fully understand how everything started to roll down the hill.
Much of the origins of the being known as the LUPERCAL would be shrouded in mystery. Yet what is known is that the Primarch of the 16th Legion would be spirited to the planet of Cathonia during the scattering of the Primarchs by the ruinous powers. A mining world within close proximity to Holy Terra, the harsh environment of the young Primarch's homeworld would be rich in precious minerals.
Okay, so his world was kinda rich in minerals.
Ruled by tech barbarian criminal gangs, the Primarch of the 16th would quickly adapt to the now post-industrial hive cities and barren mines. Developing a rough, Chthonian accent from the inhabitants who influenced his youth, the Primarch would thrive among the violent gang wars of the planet until his ascension as a unifier of the disparate syndicates of the planet.
What if Horus has a bandit origins? That would be crazy.
Recorded by Imperial records as the first Primarch to be found by the Master of Mankind, it would not take long for the Emperor to reunite with his protege.
Also, he was also... It's always confusing me because he's of the 16th Legion, but he was the first one to be found. That's so strange. Like, if I would be... if I was first to be found, I would put him, like, as the first Legion, but...
Swiftly taken under the wing of the Emperor, the Primarch known as HORUS LUPERCAL would be mentored in the methods of waging war and be privy to the Master of Mankind's plans to reunify humanity. As the Emperor formed alliances with the Mechanicum of Mars and began his conquest of the stars, Horus would learn from his father's conquests and prove a capable leader in his own right. Installed as the commander of the 16th Legion, the Lunar Wolves, Horus would stand by his father's side for 30 Terran Standard years during the beginning of the conquest known by history as the Great Crusade.
So Horus was at the start of the Great Crusade, and the Great Great Crusade has started to find another 17 brothers. I mean 19 or 17 brothers.
Drafting recruits from the rabble of Cathonia, Horus would mold his legion into the sharp claws of the Imperium's war machine. Their namesake proclaimed by the master of mankind, the Lunar Wolves would strike fear into the hearts of the Imperium's foes.
I don't really vibe with the name Lunar Wolves, but okay.
With compliances gained as the momentum of the Great Crusade continued after 30 years of campaigning, reports of another Primarch's discovery would soon reach the notice of the Emperor. Granting Horus full command of the Principia Imperialis, Horus's first great test would be to continue the Great Crusade in the Emperor's absence.
Oh, but that's kind of crazy to entrust Horus so hard.
Proving his capabilities, Horus would continue
And he proved himself. Wow.
to earn the favor of the Emperor, as each of his lost brothers would be brought into the fold of the Imperium. Yet with each of his brothers' appointment to lead their legions in the wake of the Lupercal, Horus would resolve to remain as the Emperor's most favored son. For 200 years, the Lunar Wolves would continue to bring worlds into compliance.
They had a good run for 200 years. I mean, seems solid.
Gaining the respect of each of their brothers, the deeds of their legions would not surpass the grandeur and glories of the vaunted.
In a sense, yeah, their glory and deeds surpassed, but it's like they were the first legion to be found. Like the first legion where I think Horus, well, and his sons, joined forces to form the Lunar Wolves, and I think they had like this. It's like Big Brother energy. If you like, you have an older siblings, and it's like, for me, it's like I have a younger sister, and sometimes I think like there's a lot of burden on me. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but yeah.
16th. Given opportunities to fight alongside his brothers in joint campaigns,
I hope you guys understood what I was trying to say.
Horus would combine the strengths of the legions in order to synergize and complement their specialities in warfare. A charismatic leader, Horus's legendary charisma would embolden the deeds of every subject of the Imperium and further increase humanity's dominion across the galaxy. Engaging newly conquered worlds in diplomacy enshrined in the cultural traditions of each unique world, Horus would treat with the new subjects of the Imperium in the manner befitting a venerable orator and statesman.
That's actually nice. So in a sense, they would, preserve some of the world's culture, I like it. It's so crazy that we know he's the guy who starts Horus Heresy, bro.
Gifted an innate mastery of psychology, Horus would bring worlds into compliance, utilizing minimal bloodshed by exploiting the hopes and fears of non-compliant civilizations. Empowering the most virtuous traits among his brother Primarchs and the subjects of his Imperium, Horus would facilitate the utmost efficiency in deployment of the Legiones Astartes and Imperial army forces. Spurring the legions to ever greater proficiency and strength, Horus would sow the seeds of rivalry between rival legions in order to hone their potential. Deeds which would prove fatal in stoking hatred among the Legiones Astartes in the years to come. Yet despite the ever-nearing culmination of the Great Crusade and unity thriving among the Legiones Astartes,
That isn't like a little bit friendly competition is like good for growth. I wonder how that turned dark so fast.
singular overwhelming threat loomed. The greenskin menace had spread like a plague among the stars. The largest empire of the Orc Xenos ever recorded had cut a swathe through the Imperium strongholds, led by their overlord, Erlak Erg. Rallying the Legiones Astartes, the Emperor would push back the greenskin tide with Horus at his side, as each Primarch brought their might to bear against the Xenos menace. Driving the Orcs back to the Ulanor system, the Emperor would end the threat of the Xenos before their numbers could once again burgeon. deploying 100,000 Astartes and 8 million Imperial Army soldiers upon the world of Ulanor.
But that sounds so little, you know, like if you think about it, like 100,000 Space Marines and 8 million Imperial Guardsmen. That sounds like so little.
Prime, the LUPERCAL, would lead the final battle of the Ulanor Crusade. Leading his lunar wolves and army regiments under his command to distract the orcs upon the greater battlefield, Horus would assault the great tower of the orc capital. Alongside his elite Justair and First Company, Horus would face the orc overlord upon the peak of the tower, and after besting the creature in single combat, cast its body from the tower.
That's cool. I wonder how other boys reacted to their boss falling from the tower.
As its great carcass crashed and split upon the soil of Ulanor, the orcs would panic and be slaughtered by the lunar wolves. The LUPERCAL had proven to be the catalyst for the culmination of the Ulanor Crusade and bested its champion. For his great victory, the Emperor would honor Horus for his deeds. Given the title of Warmaster by the Emperor, the new Commander-in-Chief of the Great Crusade would be gifted the Power Mace, Worldbreaker, as his new badge of office.
Oh, that's how he got his fucking weapon.
The 16th Legion would be renamed as the Sons of Horus for their valor, and bear
Sons of Horus sounds way better than Wunderwoods. That's my opinion.
their new insignia with pride.
Oh, new insignia as well.
Horus had proven his worth as the first among equals, and as Warmaster of the Imperium, lead the remainder of the Great Crusade with the authority of the Master of Mankind. Departing from the Great Crusade, the Emperor of Mankind would attend to his Imperial Webway project in secret, as his chosen Warmaster continued his quest to persecute the war to unify humanity.
Okay, so now they legit split. Okay. So somewhere here everything starts to go sour.
Yet with the absence of the Emperor, Horus would be burdened with his new mantle of favor and begin his downfall.
Yeah, this is like what I was trying to say. Like, he has such a shoulder burden, like he has to be top notch every time. There's like, I don't know how many, like 18 brothers who look up to him. 17 I meant. And he like, has to be top notch.
From the Master of Mankind's grace. Uneasy with his ascensions above the esteem of the Primarchs, Horus would not be blind to the discontent and jealousy of his brothers.
True.
Though demigods among men, the Primarchs...
Listen, I can relate here to Horus because I am the older sibling in the family. So I can relate to Horus. Okay? Don't judge me. Do not judge me. I'm just spitting the truth.
were not beyond petty rivalries, to which Horus would attempt to quell the dissent brewing within the Legiones Astartes. Placating his more volatile
I see Lionel Johnson be starting shit.
brothers, Horus would
Wait, not Lionel Johnson, sorry guys, I meant Lemon Rust.
continue his father's campaign under the scrutiny of the many generals of the war effort.
Yes, so but he
Yet despite
continued.
his accolades and favor, resentment would spark in the heart of the Warmaster.
But why?
The Emperor had fled the Great Crusade to conduct an endeavor of the utmost secrecy, as the Warmaster's victories would be attributed to his father's glory.
Did I hate it so much? Dude, maybe I am Horus.
The newly founded Council of Terror would rule on the Imperium with no counsel from the Primarchs. Bitterness and resentment would take root within the mind of the Warmaster, to which the malevolent powers of chaos would exploit. The first chaplain of the Word-Bearers, Erebus, would install himself as a confidant to the Warmaster and whisper conflict into his advisements to Horus.
Okay.
Subtle in his twisting of the LUPERCAL's morality, Erebus would enact the plots of his patron gods with guile and linguistic subterfuge.
What is guile? Let me write it down to understand for later. Sorry guys, it is important. Guile, okay.
Manipulating the loyalties of the fraternity of the Mournival within the 16th Legion, Erebus would tend to their resentment of the Emperor's treatment of the Warmaster. Upon the moon of the planet Davin, such treacheries would unfold. Once a compliant world, Davin had fallen to the clutches of the Plague God through the corruption of Horus's once close ally, planetary governor, Eugen Temba. Armed with the Xenos artifact, the Kinnebrak Anaphame, the plot of Erebus would culminate in the duel between Temba and the Warmaster.
Oh, this is where Horus gets struck by this poison blade, basically, and everything starts.
Horus would be wounded by the chaos-empowered form of Eugen Temba, the corrupted blade of the Anaphame, poisoning the Warmaster with an otherworldly infection. As Horus slew the thrall of Nurgle, he would collapse and fall into a coma. Brought to the
One Nurgling guy started
16th Legion's apothecaries by the Mournival, the ministration of the Sons of Horus's medical technologies would prove insufficient in restoring their Primarch. The Warmaster worsened with each passing moment as the virulent curse within him drained his remaining vitality. In an act of desperation, the Mournival would enact the council of First Chaplain Erebus and bring their Primarch's body to the Temple of the Serpent Lodge upon Davin's moon. Warrior lodges had already been installed within the Legiones Astartes by the Word-Bearers in order to further corrupt the Astartes of the Legions, to which the Sons of Horus were no exception. Entrusting Horus's body to the Davinite priests, the Warmaster's soul would be delivered before the gods of chaos and become corrupted by the rituals and sorceries of the Chaos cultists. Horus's soul would be submerged within the Immaterium and bear witness to nightmarish visions of humanity's future.
Oh, this is where I heard something. Horus saw the nightmarish futures, I think, and he basically was like, if I won't do something, this is what's gonna happen. But unfortunately, what he didn't know, everything that happens later was in fact because he tried to change everything. If he would never rebelled against the Emperor, nothing of this would have happened. Or am I completely
The
wrong?
Emperor of the grim dark future would be worshipped as a god.
Yeah, but that is...
And the Warmaster would be ignorant of his own meddling in this portent of humanity's fate. Portraying themselves as victims with no stake in the matters of the material world, the beings of the warp would entice Horus by fueling his long-harbored bitterness. The spectre of Magnus the Red, Primarch of the Thousand Suns, would attempt to sway Horus from the path of damnation. Explaining that the future he foresaw could be avoided, Magnus would beseech the Warmaster from listening to the whispers of chaos.
Magnus actually started to help Horus. Man, maybe Magnus didn't deserve what happened to him and his legion.
Yet Horus's jealousy would not be abated, and with a pact
He sold his soul to save his Space Marine kids, basically. I call them kids.
pledged in the name of the Dark Gods, the Warmaster would accept the bargain offered by the ruinous powers. Slay the Emperor, and the galaxy shall be yours.
Sounds easy.
Reborn as the champion of Chaos Undivided, Horus Lupercal would renounce the Emperor and begin his descent into madness.
Also, guys, the animation in background is crazy. What the hell? I've
Forming
never
alliances
seen any of it.
with the Primarchs embittered to the Emperor, Horus would use his charisma to nurture the resentments sown
Program.
deep within his brothers' hearts,
Mortarion.
bringing the World Eaters, Death Guard and
It's also so good now when he shows some Primarchs actually know their fucking names. It's so cool.
Emperor's children into the fold. Horus would begin his great plot to overthrow the Imperium. Dispatching orders to the Ultramarines, Dark Angels, and Blood Angels to the far corners of the galaxy on crusades to delay their involvement, the White Scars and Imperial Fists would prove too distant to influence the start of the Great War for humanity. Purging the loyalists within the ranks of his legion and those of his allies, the blood of the noble warriors of the Emperor would salt the earth of Istvan free. Despite his efforts to conceal his betrayal from the Emperor, fragments of the loyalists within the traitor legions would escape the Warmaster's grasp.
Some of them survived.
Knowing reprisal would be swift, Horus would enact commands to contain and convert the Emperor's legion.
I actually have one little question. Maybe someone will be kind enough to answer it. the surviving loyalist Astartes who were in the traitor. Let's say there were some loyalists in Death Guard who were not corrupted and managed to escape. Were they like killed, or like other legions allowed them to join their ranks, or they were sent to some other legion, I don't know, to serve some penance?
Legions. Magnus the Red would, in his attempt to warn the Emperor of the Warmaster's impending betrayal, ruin the Master of Mankind's Imperial Webway project and bring censure to his own legion. Dispatching the Emperor's children to attempt to bring the Iron Hands into the fold, and manipulating the Primarchs Conrad Kurz, Perturabo, and Alfarius to join the traitor war effort, the Warmaster's mastery of planning and conquest would prove invaluable to his cause. With the aid of the Word-Bearers and persecution of the Thousand Sons at the hands of the Wolves of Fenris, the Warmaster's gambit would unfold. The resolute loyalist legions of the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard would hurl themselves into the fray, and for their fervor be crushed. Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Tenth, would be slain.
Yeah.
Vulcan had been captured.
I'm still thinking about Ferrus Manus. He's so underrated, like, it's crazy how underrated he is. I started to like him so much.
And Corvus Corax had fled. Yet many battles lay ahead for the Warmaster in his inexorable campaign to defeat the Emperor. Convening the conclave of the Primarchs aboard his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, Horus would address his brothers. With the exception of the Alpha Legion Primarch Alfarius, the traitor Primarchs would begin to deliberate their strategy to destroy the Imperium.
I wonder what Alfarius was doing during this, since, well, he was nowhere to be found.
Many of their number had already submitted to the thrall of chaos, and in doing so, pledged their allegiance to the ruinous powers. Fulgrim, Primarch of the Emperor's children, had become possessed with a demonic entity, whilst Magnus the Red had surrendered to the Changer of Ways in the wake of the burning of Prospero. Lorgar Aurelian had unwittingly been a patron of the Chaos Gods from his worship of the old faith of his homeworld, and within the ranks of Mortarian's Death Guard and Angron's World Eaters, the presence of chaos had begun to fester. An assortment of renegades, pawns of the ruinous powers, and psychotic madmen would stand against the glory of his Imperium, with Horus installed as the favoured general of the Dark Gods. The Warmaster would task his legions with campaigns to persecute across the stars. The Imperial Fist Retribution Fleet would be crippled by the Iron Warriors, the Death Guard would attempt to bring the White Scars into the ranks of the rebellion, and the Word-Bearers would trap the 1st, 9th, and 13th Legions within a warp-devised cage.
Dude, it's like everything is so perfectly set up, but somehow Imperium prevails.
The Tech Priests of Mars would wage a civil war, whilst the Legio Titanica, Knight Houses, and Imperial Army regiments would pledge to join or resist the call to arms of the Warmaster. 3 loyalist legions had already been broken beyond all hope of restoring to their former might. But the war for humanity would be fought and lost at the throne world of Holy Terror. Yet the Emperor would not stand idle as his Imperium burned, and with the aid of Malcador the Sigillite, attempt to end the Horus heresy before it could gain further momentum. The loyalists to the throne now stood at the knife's edge of the war. Severely outmaneuvered with the annihilation of the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard, the Loyalists would be put on a defensive footing. The Imperial Fist would fortify the throne world as the Shattered Legions fought a desperate guerrilla warfare campaign against the traitors.
All we need to do is just hold the damn line.
The Ultramarines, Dark Angels, White Scars, and Blood Angels were cut off from the wider Imperium, and the Space Wolves had incurred heavy losses from their persecution of the Thousand Sons. Malcador the Sigillite would begin his shadow war against the traitors, whilst the Master of Mankind tended to the demonic incursions spawned from Magnus's destruction of the Imperial Webway project. The Imperium now faced its greatest trial, for it would take the toil of every loyal soul to deny the traitors their prize. Though one weakness could be exploited within the traitor rebellion.
Which one?
Should the Warmaster perish, the traitor war...
Oh yeah! I keep forgetting that he's like the only one who can glue them up together.
Effort would collapse, for only Horus could unify such a disparate band of duplicitous degenerates. Dispatching the assassin Clays, Malkador would orchestrate countless missions to slay the arch-traitor. Yet with every failed assassination, Horus would be further emboldened in his cause to slay the Emperor. Contacting the Black Shields of the Fangs of the Emperor and founding the Knights Errant, comprised of the estranged and betrayed sons of the Legiones Astartes, Malkador would not relent in his attempts to kill the Warmaster. Recruiting former lunar wolves of the 16th Legion into his clandestine order, individuals such as Severian, Iacton Cruz, and Garviel Loken would seek to exploit the weaknesses known of their estranged legion.
Also, these are like the ones, the question I asked before, so these ones were Warus who still remained loyal, okay. What weaknesses, I wonder, do we know?
Alongside the Primarch of the 6th Legion, Leman Russ, Malkador would plot and order the Wolf King to attempt one final strike against the Warmaster. A kill team of the Knights Errant would board the vengeful spirit, and with the Lunar Wolves' knowledge of the 16th Legion, lay a path within the ship for the Space Wolves to assault the Warmaster's throne room. During the Battle of Molech, the kill team and their commander, the outcast son of Horus, Garviel Loken, would infiltrate the vengeful spirit. Captured and brought to the LUPERCAL court, Loken would face his Gene Father and be given an offer to rejoin the Warmaster's Legion. Defying his once noble father.
Damn. Imagine how... Dude, it's crazy, like, imagine how Horus feels. I think it's like basically one of his also favorite, like, son, basically, who is rejecting him.
Loken and his surviving Knights Errant would escape from their captors.
They escaped!
For his battle brother, Bror Tearfinger, had lain Futhark runes for his Genekin and enabled a path for the future assault of the 6th Legion. The Wolves would strike during the Battle of Trisolian, and with the aid of Bror, the rout would seek to slay the Warmaster. Boarding the vengeful spirit, Russ would lead his men to the heart of the flagship and strike against Horus. Wielding the Dionysian spear, the Wolf King would manage to pierce the Warmaster's armor and wound Horus. Forged by the Emperor's own hand, the so-called Spear of Russ would contain a portion of the Emperor's power and reveal the truth.
I didn't know the stuff made by Emperor had his, like, little bit of his power.
To any whom would be cut from its edge. Horus would be cleansed of the corruption of chaos and for a moment return to his true self. No longer a thrall of the ruinous powers, Horus would, despite such a revelation, choose to remain opposed.
It's like they say Magnus was given an opportunity. The Emperor showed him vision, but Magnus denied. Same
to the
here.
Imperium. Rejecting Leman's offer to return to Holy Terra, Horus would attempt to slay the Wolf King. Yet the valor of the rout would hold true as hundreds of Astartes swarmed the Warmaster and dragged Leman's body from the battle.
Obviously.
The 6th Legion would sacrifice their lives to save their Primarch, but at the cost of the vast majority of their remaining strength.
Yeah.
Horus had been vulnerable, and were it not for the hesitation of the Wolf King, would have died at the hands of Russ. Yet the wound inflicted by the Dionysian spear would send the Warmaster into a coma, to which he may never recover.
Oh, really?
The ruinous powers would fight and clamour for the soul of their champion.
Yeah, okay.
Deep within the Immaterium, Horus's very soul would fight an endless battle to remain in control of his being, yet his legion would not stand idle. The Warmaster's equerry, Malagurst the Twisted, would attempt a ritual to reunite his Genefather's soul with his body. Defended by Callus Echidon, the twisted son of Horus would leave his mortal body and delve into the Immaterium. Finding his father's fractured soul, Malagurst would beseech his liege to return to the material realm. Concluding the ritual, Malagurst would impale the wound Horus had sustained from the Spear of Russ with his own Aphame dagger. Sacrificing his own soul for his father, Malagurst would succeed in...
But imagine how crazy it is. Someone sacrificed himself basically to go to hell, drag you out. That's
freeing
crazy.
Horus
Dude, that probably motivated Horus even, more to try harder.
and once more install him as Warmaster of the Horus heresy. Resuming control of the legions, Horus would rally the traitor Primarchs for their final assault of the throne world. Enacting the Battle of Terror, the traitor legions would descend upon the Sol system, reaping untold millions of souls.
Dude, imagine maybe like 10 years from now we would get a game where it's like Siege of Terra, where it's like millions upon millions of NPCs shooting each other. Man, that would be just crazy to witness.
As the defense fleets of Luna were sundered by the traitors' guns, the traitors would begin their infamous siege of Holy Terror. Days of bombardments would hearken the countless drop pods which rained from the skies as heretics, butchers, zealots, and
My beloved Sanguinius
warmongers descended upon the Imperial Palace. Titans unleashed their fury upon the walls of the Imperium's dauntless bastions as billions of soldiers hurled their worthless bodies into the munitions of the Emperor's devoted subjects. Horus would watch as his merciless harrying of the palace brought ground for his men, inch by bloody inch. For the traitors would not be invulnerable from the reinforcements of the Dark Angels, Space Wolves.
Guys, I'm sorry, but I'm just consumed by the videos. I'm like looking at everything I can.
And Ultramarines,
it's so crazy.
Should their siege tarry too long. The Emperor's forces were giving ground as each minute passed, yet the traitors had taken many losses and could not hope to survive should they be trapped between the palace defenders and the impending retribution of the 1st, 6th, and 13th legions. The Siege of Terror had stalled, and with the withdrawal of the Iron Warriors, banishment of Angron and Mortarion, and the disorganized Emperor's children indulging in their own debased atrocities, the Warmaster would not be able to breach the Imperial Palace before the impending assault of the Ultramarines. Challenging the Emperor to face him in single combat, Horus would lower the shields of
I can't believe Iron Warriors were like basically the quitters of the gang.
the Vengeful Spirit, and the loyalist Primarchs Rogel Dawn, Sanguinius, and the Emperor would teleport upon the Warmaster's flagship and battle to decide the fate of humanity.
Yeah.
Sanguinius, Primarch of the Blood Angels, would confront his once cherished brother and would behold the fell glory of the Warmaster of Chaos. Bloated with power, should Horus slay the Emperor, he would ascend as the 5th god of the ruinous powers.
Oh, why really? He would become like a 5th like Chaos God? That's insane.
Alike to the birth of the creature, born from the downfall of the Eldari. Knowing his fate to be destined to die at the hands of Horus, the great angel would regardless launch himself into a battle to the death against his brother.
Imagine knowing you're gonna die and you still do your best. This is why he is my GOAT. He is my GOAT.
Damaging the Warmaster's armor, Sanguinius would be unable to wound the Champion of Chaos, and in the attempt to slay him, fall to the talon of Horus. Finding his noble son at the feet of the Warmaster, the Master of Mankind would face the Dark King. Proclaiming that he would spare the Emperor should he kneel before him, Horus would bask in his delusion. Yet the Master of Mankind would declare that Horus was nothing more than a slave to darkness, of which there would be no hope of redemption.
I have nothing even better to say. Emperor just spit facts at that moment.
Bolts of psychic energy would spill from the Warmaster as he charged into a duel with the Emperor. Within the throne room of the Vengeful Spirit, the two gods of humanity would clash for the fate of the Imperium's destiny. Restraining his immense strength, the Emperor would be unwilling to bring his full might against his once most beloved son, and for his hesitation be wounded by the Warmaster. Disarming the Emperor, Horus would gouge his father's eye, tear his right arm from its socket, and break the Emperor's spine over his knee. Gloating at his victory, Horus's dominion would be achieved, yet it would be the action of a mortal man who would deny the Warmaster.
Really?
Standing between the Emperor and the Warmaster, the stoic soul would stare into the eyes of Horus and refuse to be cowed. Ripped apart for his insolence by the psychic power of the Warmaster, such an act of defiance would galvanize the Emperor's resolve. Summoning his remaining strength without restraint, the Emperor would unleash his full psychic might and rend the Dark King from existence.
I didn't know it was like that. So that Saul, that Imperial Guardsman, whoever he basically motivated Emperor to not give up.
Realizing his folly for a singular moment before his death, Horus would shed a single tear before his soul was eradicated. The traitors would retreat from Terra and be forever shamed for their hubris in attempting to usurp the master of mankind. With exception to the 17th Legion, the traitors would disband and fragment into warbands bearing no allegiance to a champion
17th Legion, is that Wargar?
in the place of their slain Warmaster. The first captain of the Sons of Horus, Ezekiel Abaddon, would abandon his father's legacy and seek answers for his purpose within the tattered carcass of what remained of the galaxy. Horus Lupercal's lifeless body would be taken to the world of Malium and enshrined upon the demon world. Yet the ever-duplicitous Emperor's children would, during the dawn of the 31st millennium, enact the slave wars as the scraps of the traitors fought over the dominion of their tattered ranks. Fabius Bile, chief apothecary of the 3rd Legion, would steal the body of the Lupercal and conduct experiments in order to clone the Primarch to once again lead the traitors in their quest to destroy the Imperium. Yet as the Spider conducted his research, Ezekiel Abaddon would return to the 16th Legion and proclaim himself to be the inheritor to his father's failure. Installing himself as the new Warmaster of Chaos, the Despoiler would reforge his men into the accursed Black Legion.
It's the guy who destroyed Cade, yeah?
And lead them to assault the Emperor's Children fortress. The clone of Horus would be released from its confinement, and Abaddon would look upon the reborn visage of his father. Armed with the Talon of Horus, Abaddon would destroy his father's seal of office, Worldbreaker, and plunge the blades of his talon within the chest of the clone.
I mean, that's a clone, like, you know, whatever.
Firing a volley of bolter rounds from the Talon's Stormbolter within Horus's chest cavity, the reborn Lupercal would be eviscerated by the blast. The time of Horus Lupercal was over, for a new warrior would assume the mantle of Warmaster and continue the 16th Legion's quest for vengeance.
Yeah, for me, Horus' story was over when he died to the Emperor. This part was, I guess, to give context for, you know, what happened a bit later.
Strange is it not, that so many I wish besides me stand against me, while at my back are only the flawed and damaged. I am a master of broken monsters.
Slowly, he began to circle the edge of the great hololithic table, the sound of his footsteps lost in the echoing silence.
I cannot control them, or their sons, and they know it. Mortarion and Perturabo and the rest, they can all feel it.
You what?
They all know that this war is no longer something that can be guided, only ridden out. But they never understood me, not truly, and they understand less with each passing second. They doubt. They think that I have lost my way. I can see it in their hearts, the pettiness, the pride, the seeds of ruin driving them on, feeding the tempest. With such creatures, must I remake the future?
He stopped
He called them creatures.
again at the foot of the throne and reached out, his hand closed over Worldbreaker's haft. With casual ease, he raised it up so that the chamber's thin light caught every dent and scar on the polished metal.
1,000 battles, 10,000, 10 times 10 times 10,000 to bring about the new age. All of the certainties of the past torn down, all the beliefs that made them turned to ash. War on every front, stretched across time until none can know when the final blow will come. There is no disaster, for all disasters serve me alone. The storm rises, only so that the thunderbolt may fall. It does not matter how the galaxy burns, only that it does. Warmaster. That is what it means, my brother. The strength to do what must be done.
Gotta be honest, kinda cold, kinda cold.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer.
Thank you, Remembrancer.
The chosen son of the Emperor would be manipulated through his misguided certainty of his strength. For despite his favor, Horus Lupercal would be proven to be among the greatest betrayers of humanity. Yet in my next transmission, we shall elucidate the architect of the Imperium's downfall, and the first to submit to the clutches of the ruinous powers.
Borgar?
The bearer of the word, Lorgar Aurelian.
Yeah, I'm very curious to learn about that guy. But that is for the next reaction. Now we need to basically summarize this one. And boy oh boy, it's crazy. It's always one thing, one fight with an Nurgling infection, sees false future. Magnus still tried to tell him, maybe you saw a lie. It's crazy. Magnus, think it, guys. Magnus. You know, Horus still believed in himself. He had to shoulder the burden because everyone was looking up to him. I guess in the peak of Crusade, Emperor left him without no choice, and all of the brothers got jealous, of him, I understand it. Pretty sad, crazy. A lot of plot twist. I will personally say the Horse definitely ends up in my top 10. He's an interesting character. That would be it. Also, guys, a bit of topic in the beginning of the video. I also finished in the new definitive Dawn of War games. I actually finished playing as Necrons on hardest difficulty campaign, and guys, the Elders were like the toughest enemy I have faced. Especially their homeland map, where they spawn those ships that have like this purple crystal. If you know, I'll put it on screen. It's the most annoying bullshit ever, and we have like 50 of them, and my Necron Lord couldn't even use his ultimate to resurrect Necrons. That battle took me like 2 hours. I wish I would have recorded it, but as always, that recordings for some reason was corrupted. I wanted to put it in the beginning of the video, but I forgot, so I talked about it here now a little bit. Thank you for listening to me ramble about, makes me feel good. Thank you guys for watching. It would mean a lot to me if you would press like. It would even be even cooler if you would comment, I guess. If you have some suggestions, always drop them in the comments, guys. I read them. Genuinely, I read them. Because right now there's not a lot of them, so I can clearly read them. Yeah. This is a bit later upload. Usually by this time I already have the video uploaded on YouTube, as you see the time. I was sick again, so sorry. Brother, I'm ending it. Bye.